The Great Hall of Unity Station floated in the silent darkness between stars. Inside, representatives from 43 species gathered around the circular chamber. At the center stood High Scholar Vexthor of the Thraxi Empire. His forearms trembled slightly as he activated the holographic display. The image showed a dying star system. Thousands of ships fled from collapsing worlds. Bodies drifted in space. Entire planets burned. The Cathera swarm has taken 17 of our colonies in 3 months, Vexthor said quietly. His translator rendered his words in every language present. They do not negotiate. They do not stop. They consume everything. Ambassador Chen Wei sat in the human section, her face calm. She watched the other species shift uncomfortably in their seats. The Valorians looked away. The Crestian delegate suddenly found his datapad fascinating. The Meldari representative actually stood up and left the chamber. We have helped many species in this council, Vexthor continued. His voice grew softer, which made his words hit harder. We ask now for help in return. We are not warriors. Our people are dying. Silence filled the hall. Chen Wei counted 30 seconds. Then 60. Nobody spoke. Finally, the Valorian Prime stood. His scales gleamed under the chamber lights. The Thraxi have our deepest sympathy. However, the Cathera swarm is beyond our capacity to fight. We must think of our own people first. Other voices joined in agreement. The council had many reasons. The swarm was too dangerous. The distance was too far. Their own borders needed defending. One by one, the species of the galaxy refused. Chen Wei stood. The room quieted. High Scholar Vexthor, she said clearly. Do you remember the year 2237? Vexthor's large eyes focused on her. Of course, Ambassador. That was the year we met your people. Tell them what happened. The old scholar nodded slowly. The hologram changed. Now it showed Earth blue and green and beautiful. Then it showed the asteroid. A mountain of rock and ice 30 kilometers wide, heading straight for humanity's homeworld. We detected the asteroid before humans did, Vexthor explained. Our deep space sensors saw it would hit Earth in 14 months. The impact would kill billions, perhaps all of them. The hologram showed Thraxi ships arriving at Earth. Human vessels, primitive and crude compared to galactic standards, surrounded the alien fleet. The humans had expected invasion. Instead, they got salvation. We deployed our gravity manipulators, Vexthor said. We pulled the asteroid away from Earth. It took 6 months of constant work. We asked for nothing in return. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had nothing we needed. The image showed human leaders meeting Thraxi scholars. It showed the signing of the First Contact Treaty. And it showed the human representative, an old man with tears in his eyes, making a promise. We swear an eternal debt to the Thraxi people, the recorded human voice said. You saved our world, our children, our future. If you ever need us, we will come. This we promise on everything we hold sacred. Chen Wei looked around the chamber. 50 years ago, the Thraxi Empire saved 6 billion human lives. They asked for nothing. They expected nothing. Today, they need help. She tapped her datapad. I am authorized by the United Earth Government, the Mars Colonial Authority, the Jupiter Confederacy, and all human settlements to make this statement. Humanity accepts the Thraxi request for military aid. We will deploy forces to defend Thraxi space and eliminate the Cathera threat. Whispers filled the chamber. The Valorian Prime laughed, a hissing sound. With respect, Ambassador, your species has been in space for only 50 years. You have what, a few hundred ships? The swarm has already destroyed fleets of thousands. Chen Wei smiled. It was not a warm smile. We have more than a few hundred ships. How many then? Another delegate called out. Enough. Chen Wei replied simply. Vexthor moved closer to the human section. Ambassador, we are grateful beyond words. But the Council is correct. The Cathera swarm is unlike any threat you have faced. They number in the millions. They feel no fear. They do not retreat. We do not wish humanity to sacrifice itself for our sake. Chen Wei placed her hand over her heart. A human gesture the Thraxi scholar recognized. High Scholar, you once told us that the Thraxi judge a species by their capacity for gratitude. You saved us when we were helpless. Now we are not helpless. The debt will be repaid. She turned to address the entire council. Humanity will mobilize immediately. We expect to have forces in Thraxi space within 3 weeks. We will coordinate with Thraxi Command to determine the best defensive positions. 3 weeks? The Valorian Prime scoffed. It takes 3 weeks just to prepare a standard battle group. Yes, Chen Wei agreed. That is true for most species. She gathered her materials and prepared to leave. High Scholar Vexthor, please transmit all intelligence data on Cathera positions, tactics, and capabilities to the coordinates I am sending you. Humanity is going to war. As she walked toward the exit, Vexthor called after her. Ambassador Chen Wei, may I ask what you expect to accomplish? Chen Wei paused at the doorway. She looked back at the ancient scholar who had saved her world. We expect to win, she said simply. And we expect the Cathera swarm to regret every Thraxi life they took. The door closed behind her. The council chamber erupted in conversation. Some species called humans arrogant. Others called them foolish. A few called them insane. Vexthor stood quietly, staring at the door where the human had exited. He remembered something from his studies of Earth history. A quote from one of their ancient warriors. Beware the fury of a patient man. The Thraxi had saved humanity. They had been patient, kind, and generous. Now they were dying, and they had just awakened something that had been sleeping. High Scholar Vexthor felt something he had not expected to feel. Not gratitude, though he felt that too. Not hope, though that stirred in his hearts. He felt a cold touch of fear. Out of the Cathera swarm, of what humanity might do to save his people. Observer Krelthus had never been to a human world before. The Thraxi scientist stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth rotate below. The planet looked peaceful, beautiful, harmless. He had been sent to accompany the human military response. High Scholar Vexthor wanted first-hand reports of human capabilities. After 3 days on Luna Station, Krelthus was deeply confused. They are mobilizing their entire civilization, he reported through his communicator. High Scholar, I do not understand what I am seeing. Explain, Observer. Vexthor's voice came back. Krelthus watched another massive ship launch from Earth's surface. The humans claim they will have a fleet ready in 3 weeks. I believed this was impossible, but I am watching them do it. He pulled up data on his pad. They have activated something called Total War Protocol. Every human colony received the same message simultaneously. Every shipyard has stopped civilian production. Every factory has converted to military manufacturing. This is not unusual during wartime, Vexthor replied. High Scholar, they did it in 6 hours. 6 hours after Ambassador Chen Wei left Unity Station, every human facility in every system had completely changed its production. There was no debate, no votes, no resistance. Krelthus moved to another window. He could see the construction yards now. Thousands of workers swarmed over ships in various stages of completion. They are not building new ships. They already had them partially built. Hulls, engines, weapons systems, all stored and waiting. They are simply assembling them. How many ships? Vexthor asked. I have counted 500 capital ships launching from Earth alone. Mars reports similar numbers. The Jupiter moons, the Saturn colonies, the outer settlements. High Scholar, they are not sending a relief force. They are sending an invasion fleet. Silence on the line. Then Vexthor spoke carefully. Observer, you must be mistaken. No species maintains that level of military readiness during peacetime. That is what I thought too, Krelthus replied. So I asked them. They looked at me strangely. One officer said, we are always ready for war. Peace is just the time between conflicts. A human approached him. She wore a dark uniform with symbols Krelthus had learned meant admiral. Her name was Sarah Kovacs. Observer Krelthus, she said with a smile. Are you ready to join the fleet? I am still trying to understand your fleet, Admiral, Krelthus replied honestly. Your species has been in space for only 50 years. Where did all these ships come from? Kovacs gestured for him to follow. They walked through corridors filled with rushing personnel. We built them, obviously. Humans are very good at building things, especially things that destroy other things. She led him to a briefing room. The walls displayed ship schematics, star charts, and tactical data. Observer, let me ask you something. What did your people do for 50 years after first contact? Krelthus thought about it. We studied your culture. We traded knowledge. We offered guidance on galactic politics. Right, very kind of you. Kovacs pulled up an image of Earth. Want to know what we did? We studied every war in galactic history. Every conflict, every battle. We analyzed tactics, weapons, strategies. We learned how every species fights. She changed the image to show a Thraxi gravity manipulator. We reverse-engineered your technology. We improved it, made it smaller, cheaper, easier to mass-produce. Another image showed weapons Krelthus did not recognize. We developed these based on Cathera biology data we purchased from information brokers 20 years ago. Why? Krelthus asked. The galaxy has been at peace, Kovacs laughed. Observer, there has never been a moment in human history without war somewhere. When we joined the galaxy, we didn't think, oh good, now we can relax. We thought, who's going to attack us first and how do we make sure we win? She sat down and pulled up more data. Every human colony has mandatory military training. Every ship has conversion protocols to become a warship. Every civilian freighter can carry troops and weapons. We design everything with war in mind because we assume war is inevitable. Krelthus felt his hands trembling. This is terrifying. Is it? Kovacs tilted her head. Observer, the Cathera swarm has killed millions of Thraxi. They will kill millions more if we don't stop them. What's terrifying? That we prepared for this or that nobody else did? A junior officer entered with a datapad. Admiral, the last battle groups are forming up. We'll be ready to jump in 4 hours. Ahead of schedule. Excellent. Kovacs dismissed the officer and turned back to Krelthus. You should prepare yourself, Observer. We jump to Thraxi space soon. You'll see how humans fight. I have seen the tactical simulations, Krelthus said. Your strategies appear sound. Kovacs smiled again. This time it was not friendly. Observer, those simulations are for if things go well. But things rarely go well in war. When they don't, you'll see what makes humans different. And what is that? Krelthus asked. We're good at winning, Kovacs said simply. But we're even better at losing in a way that destroys the enemy. Every human is taught from childhood. If you can't win, make sure the other side regrets ever fighting you. She stood and prepared to leave. Get some rest, Observer. In 4 hours we jump. In 6 days we'll reach Thraxi space, and then you'll see something no one in this galaxy has seen for centuries. What is that? Kovacs paused at the door. Humans at war, Totaiva. The kind where we don't stop until the enemy is completely defeated or we're all dead. The kind where peace isn't the goal. Victory is. After she left, Krelthus stood alone in the briefing room. He looked at the star charts showing Cathera positions. He thought about the thousands of human ships preparing to jump. He thought about what Kovacs had said. Then he sent another message to High Scholar Vexthor. High Scholar, we may have made a mistake invoking humanity's debt. The humans are grateful we saved them. They will save us in return. But I do not think the galaxy is ready to see how humans express gratitude. What do you mean, Observer? Krelthus looked at the Earth spinning peacefully below. The Thraxi saved humanity by moving an asteroid. Humanity is going to save us by drowning the Cathera swarm in blood. I fear what comes after. After we are saved? No, High Scholar. After the galaxy realizes what humans are truly capable of when someone threatens their friends. Outside the window, another warship launched. Then another. And another. They formed up in perfect formation, thousands of ships moving as one, ready to jump across the stars to fight an enemy that had terrified the galaxy. Krelthus watched them go and felt cold despite the comfortable temperature. The humans were coming. The debt would be repaid, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The Cathera hive mind did not understand fear. It understood hunger. It understood expansion. It understood that all other species fell before the swarm eventually. 17 species had tried to stop the Cathera. 17 had failed. Now the swarm detected new ships entering Thraxi space, small vessels by Cathera standards. The species called themselves humans. The hive mind had no memory of fighting humans before. It did not matter. All species were the same. All species died. The swarm sent a standard attack force, 3,000 bioships carrying 6 million warriors, enough to crush any defense the Thraxi could mount. The humans had only 800 vessels in this sector. The Cathera expected the humans to run or fortify defensive positions. The humans did neither. Observer Krelthus stood on the bridge of the human flagship Retribution. Admiral Kovacs stood calmly as tactical displays showed the approaching swarm. They outnumber us 4-1, Krelthus said quietly. Should we not withdraw to the defensive lines? Why? Kovacs asked. Because we are outnumbered, Admiral. Kovacs smiled. Observer, humans have a saying. Quantity has a quality all its own. It's true. But you know what's better than numbers? What? Ruthlessness. Kovacs turned to her crew. All ships Delta formation. Prepare ramming protocols. Krelthus felt his blood go cold. Ramming? Admiral, that will destroy our ships. Some of them, yes, Kovacs agreed casually. Lieutenant Chen, broadcast to the Cathera on all frequencies. A young officer spoke. Admiral, the Cathera are a hive mind. They don't negotiate, I know. Send it anyway. The lieutenant shrugged and opened channels. Kovacs spoke clearly. Cathera swarm. This is Admiral Sarah Kovacs of the Human Defense Fleet. You have killed our friends. You have destroyed Thraxi worlds. This ends now. Every human ship you see is willing to die to take you with us. Every single one. Can you say the same? No response came. The swarm continued forward. Didn't think so, Kovacs muttered. Execute Delta formation. The human fleet suddenly split into groups. Some vessels accelerated directly toward the Cathera at maximum speed. Others hung back with weapons charging. The swarm adjusted, moving to surround and overwhelm the forward ships. Krelthus watched in horror as 12 human destroyers crashed directly into Cathera bioships. Both sides exploded in brilliant flashes. Admiral, we just lost 12 ships, and they lost 24, Kovacs replied. Plus we scattered their formation. Fire missiles, all tubes. Thousands of missiles erupted from the remaining human ships. They tore through the confused Cathera formation, detonating among bioships that were too close together. Another group ramming speed, Kovacs ordered. Admiral, no. Krelthus grabbed her arm. Your people are dying. Kovacs looked at him. Her eyes were hard. Observer, every human in this fleet volunteered. They knew what we might ask them to do. And they said yes because your people saved ours. This is what humans do for friends. 8 more ships accelerated forward. This time the Cathera tried to scatter, but that opened gaps in their formation. Human railguns fired through the gaps, ripping apart bioships. Fusion charges armed, reported the weapons officer. Send them in, Kovacs ordered. 30 human ships, each carrying massive fusion bombs, flew into the thickest part of the Cathera formation. The swarm tried to destroy them. Some exploded early, but 15 made it to the center of the enemy fleet. Detonate, Kovacs said softly. The view screen automatically darkened as fusion fire consumed hundreds of Cathera bioships. When the light faded, a quarter of the swarm force was simply gone. Another quarter drifted, badly damaged. The Cathera hesitated. For the first time in this campaign, the hive mind experienced something close to confusion. This species was accepting devastating losses but causing even worse damage to the swarm. They're regrouping, Tactical reported. The remaining ships are trying to form a defensive sphere. Don't let them. All ships weapons free. Tear them apart. The human fleet swept forward. Railguns fired. Missiles launched. Energy weapons burned through bioorganic armor. The Cathera fought back desperately, destroying more human ships. But for every human vessel lost, 3 Cathera bioships died. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 200 human ships remained operational. Another 300 were destroyed or crippled beyond repair. But the Cathera attack force was completely annihilated. 3,000 bioships reduced to drifting debris. Krelthus looked at the casualty reports with trembling hands. Admiral, over 40,000 humans died today. I know, Kovacs replied quietly. Her voice had lost its hard edge. I know every one of them by name. But observer, how many Thraxi did they save? She pulled up a display showing the colony world the swarm had been approaching. 3 billion Thraxi live on that planet. If we hadn't stopped this attack force, they would all be dead within a month. Krelthus sat down heavily. Is this how humans always fight? Accepting such terrible losses? When we have to, yes, Kovacs said. Observer, your people study the galaxy's history. Study ours. Humans have fought wars where we lost millions to save thousands, where entire armies died to buy ours, where cities burned so that nations could survive. We understand the mathematics of sacrifice. But the Cathera outnumber you across the entire theater, Krelthus protested. They have millions more bioships. Even with these tactics, the losses will be unsustainable. Kovacs smiled grimly. Then it's a good thing we're not planning to defend forever. Tell me, observer, how do you kill a hive mind? I do not understand. The Cathera swarm is controlled by Nexus organisms on their homeworlds. Destroy those and the swarm falls apart. She pulled up star charts showing deep in Cathera space. We're not here to defend Thraxi Space Observer. We're here to end the Cathera threat permanently. But that would mean invading their territory, striking at their homeworlds. That is suicide, maybe? Kovacs agreed. But you know what the Cathera are learning right now? What? That humans invented the concept of mutually assured destruction. If they're going to threaten species we care about, we'll make sure they don't survive either. She stood and addressed her crew. Damage reports. Which ships can be repaired quickly? As officers called out reports, Kreltha sent a message to High Scholar Vexthor. His hands shook as he typed. High Scholar, the humans won their first battle, but the cost is terrible. They sacrificed hundreds of ships and thousands of lives. When I expressed horror, Admiral Kovacs said this was normal for humans. She said this is what they do for friends. He paused, watching the humans work calmly among the wreckage of their victory. High Scholar, I do not think the Cathera understand what they have awakened. The swarm thinks it fights another species trying to survive. It does not realize it fights a species that will burn itself to ashes to destroy threats to its allies. Should we ask them to stop? Came Vexthor's reply. Krelthus looked at Kovacs. She was comforting a young officer who had lost friends in the battle. Despite the victory, tears ran down the Admiral's face. No, Krelthus replied. I do not think we could stop them now if we tried. And I am beginning to understand that we should not want to. 6 months after the first battle, Observer Krelthus barely recognized the war anymore. The humans had not stopped at defending Thraxi space. They had pushed forward, driving deep into Cathera territory. The Galactic Council met an emergency session on Unity Station. Krelthus attended as the Thraxi representative, though High Scholar Vexthor had been too ill with stress to travel. This must stop, the Valorian Prime declared. His scales had lost their shine. The humans have crossed into Cathera home sectors. They are no longer defending. They are invading. Ambassador Chen Wei sat calmly in her seat. She had gained weight, Krelthus noticed. The stress of war affected humans differently than it affected other species. Some lost weight. Others, like Chen Wei, carried it as armor. The Cathera swarm threatened the Thraxi Empire with extinction, Chen Wei replied. The threat has not been eliminated. Therefore, the operation continues. They have retreated, another delegate shouted. The swarm pulled back 3 months ago. They are no longer attacking Thraxi worlds. No, Chen Wei agreed. They are regrouping, breeding more warriors, preparing for another assault. We are preventing that. The Christian delegate stood. Ambassador, the humans have destroyed 14 Cathera hive worlds. Trillions of Cathera organisms have died. This is genocide. It is elimination of an existential threat, Chen Wei corrected. There is a difference. What difference? The Valorian Prime demanded. Chen Wei's face hardened. Genocide is killing a species because of what they are. We are killing the Cathera because of what they do. They are a hive mind dedicated to consuming all other life. They cannot be negotiated with. They cannot be reformed. They can only be stopped. Krelthus stood slowly. All eyes turned to him. The Thraxi Empire wishes to speak. Observer Krelthus, the council chairman acknowledged. Krelthus looked around the chamber. 3 months ago, I would have agreed with this council. I watched humans sacrifice thousands of ships and hundreds of thousands of lives. I thought them mad, brutal, terrifying. He pulled up holographic images, but I also watched them save 3 billion Thraxi on our colony worlds. I watched them evacuate civilians while their ships held the line. I saw human soldiers die protecting Thraxi children they had never met. The images changed, showing Cathera hive worlds. The council calls this genocide. But what do you call what the Cathera did to 17 species before the humans stopped them? What do you call the complete consumption of the Viridian people? The extinction of the Korath? The devouring of 12 billion Malthi? Silence filled the chamber. The humans are doing what none of us would do. Krelthus continued. They are taking the terrible action necessary to ensure the Cathera never threaten anyone again. And yes, it is brutal. Yes, it is horrifying. But it is necessary. It is extreme, the Valorian Prime argued. Is it? Krelthus asked. Tell me, Prime, if the Cathera had reached Valoria, would you have preferred the humans stop at your borders? Let the swarm regroup and return? The Valorian said nothing. Ambassador Chen Wei stood. The council wishes to discuss morality. Very well. Let me explain human morality. 50 years ago, the Thraxi saved humanity from extinction. They asked nothing in return. That act of kindness changed humanity's view of the galaxy. We learned that not all species are threats. Some are friends. She looked around the chamber. The Cathera swarm tried to destroy those friends. From a human perspective, that is unforgivable. Not just wrong, unforgivable. So yes, we are eliminating the swarm completely, because we will not allow this threat to return in 10, 50, or 100 years. You speak of eliminating an entire species, the Crestian delegate said. How do you justify that? Easily, Chen Wei replied coldly. The Cathera made a choice. They chose to be an existential threat to peaceful species. That choice has consequences. Humans learned this lesson in our own history, through terrible wars among ourselves. Existential threats must be ended completely, or they return worse than before. A message came through to Krelthas's datapad. It was from the front lines. He read it twice, then stood again. The council should know, he said quietly. Admiral Kovac has sent an offer to the Cathera hive mind. Humanity will cease military operations if the swarm agrees to 3 conditions. First, complete withdrawal from all claimed territory not originally Cathera space. Second, submission to monitoring by human observers. Third, execution of the Nexus organisms responsible for ordering attacks on peaceful species. And if they refuse? The chairman asked. Krelthas looked at the message again. His hands trembled slightly. Admiral Kovac states that if the Cathera refuse, humanity will sterilize every hive world down to the bedrock. She says, and I quote, "The Cathera can choose to live under supervision or die under our guns. There is no third option." The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted, some in anger, some in fear. But Krelthas noticed something. None of them offered to stop the humans. None of them sent their own fleets to protect the Cathera, because deep down they were all relieved someone was finally doing what the galaxy had been too afraid to do. Ambassador Chen Wei waited for silence. When it came, she spoke softly. The Thraxi saved humanity because they are a kind species. A generous species. A species that believes in helping others. The galaxy should be very grateful that humans learned gratitude from the Thraxi example. She paused, but you should also understand something. Humans learn all lessons well. We learned gratitude. We learned friendship. We also learned that kindness requires protection, that friends must be defended, and that threats to those we care about must be eliminated without mercy. This is barbaric, the Valorian Prime said weakly. Perhaps, Chen Wei agreed, but it is effective. And it is honest. We are not pretending to be civilized while the Cathera butcher peaceful species. We are being exactly what the situation requires. Barbaric, brutal, effective. The council session ended with no resolution, but as delegates filed out, Krelthas noticed something. Several approached Ambassador Chen Wei quietly, asking about trade agreements, border treaties, defense pacts. They were afraid of humanity now, but they also wanted to be on humanity's good side. Krelthas walked with Chen Wei back to the human section. Ambassador, may I ask a question? Of course, Observer. Will you really sterilize the Cathera homeworlds? Chen Wei looked at him. Her eyes were tired but determined. Observer, humans have a concept called deterrence. You make threats so terrible that the enemy surrenders rather than face them. Most of the time you never have to carry out the threat. And if the Cathera do not surrender? Chen Wei stopped walking. Then we will do exactly what we promised. Every hive world, every Nexus organism, every Cathera bioship, we will erase the swarm from existence, not because we are evil, Observer, because we are grateful. Grateful? The Thraxi showed humanity that the galaxy could be kind, that strangers could be friends, that species could help each other without expecting reward. Chen Wei smiled sadly. We are grateful for that lesson. And we will burn the Cathera from the stars to protect the species that taught us friendship. She started walking again. In 3 days, the Cathera hive mind will respond to our ultimatum. I hope they choose to surrender. I truly do. And if they do not? Then the galaxy will learn another lesson about humans, Chen Wei said quietly. We remember our friends, and we eliminate our friends' enemies completely. Krelthas watched her go. He thought about High Scholar Vexthor, lying ill from stress in the Thraxi capital. He thought about the billions of Thraxi saved by human sacrifice. He thought about the trillions of Cathera who had already died. And he wondered if saving the Thraxi Empire had been worth teaching the galaxy what humans could truly do when awakened to war. The Cathera hive mind chose death over surrender. For 3 days after the human ultimatum, the galaxy held its breath. Then the swarm sent its response. Not in words, but in action. The Cathera launched simultaneous attacks on human positions across 5 sectors. Admiral Kovac received the news on the bridge of the Retribution. She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, observer Krelthus saw something terrible there. Not anger, not hatred, just cold determination. Send the order, Kovac said quietly. Operation Final Dawn is authorized. All battle groups proceed to Cathera Prime and the 13 core hive worlds. Orbital bombardment protocols approved. No survivors. The order went out across the human fleet. Thousands of ships, battle-scarred but still lethal, turned toward the Cathera home systems. Krelthus stood frozen. Admiral, this is extinction. Complete extinction. Yes, Kovac agreed. They had a choice. They chose this. There must be another way. Kovac turned to face him. Observer, you are a scientist. You study species. Tell me, can the Cathera change what they are? Krelthus wanted to say yes. He searched for an answer that would stop this. But he was a scientist, and scientists told the truth. No, the Cathera are biologically driven to expand and consume. They cannot change their nature. Then this is not murder, Kovac said. This is amputation. When a disease cannot be cured, you remove it before it kills the patient. The Cathera are a disease. We are the cure. The human fleet jumped to Cathera Prime 3 days later. The planet was massive, twice the size of Earth, covered in organic structures that pulsed with alien life. Billions of Cathera organisms swarmed its surface. In orbit, thousands of bioships gathered to defend their home. The humans did not slow down. All ships, weapons free. Kovac ordered. Plasma bombs, fusion missiles, kinetic strikes. Burn it all. The battle for Cathera Prime lasted 8 hours. The swarm fought with desperate fury. They threw everything at the human fleet. Bioships rammed human vessels. Suicide swarms tried to board and infest human ships. The hive mind itself, a massive organic intelligence buried deep in the planet, directed the defense with cunning. But humans had fought desperate battles before. They knew how to win even while dying. Human ships formed a sphere around the planet. Those on the outer edge held off the bioships, dying to protect those in the inner sphere. The inner ships bombarded Cathera Prime with every weapon in humanity's arsenal. Fusion fire scorched the surface. Kinetic strikes created shockwaves that rippled across continents. Plasma bombs burned organic structures to ash. Krelthus watched from the Retribution as the planet died. He felt sick. Billions of organisms, all connected to the hive mind, all dying. It was the largest mass death in recorded galactic history. Admiral, he said weakly. Please stop this. Kovac did not look at him. Her eyes were locked on the tactical display. We stop when the hive mind is confirmed dead, not before. Sensors detected the moment the Cathera hive mind died. The planet's organic networks collapsed. Bioships in orbit suddenly lost coordination, crashing into each other or drifting aimlessly. The massive intelligence that had threatened the galaxy for centuries simply ceased to exist. Hive mind is dead, Tactical reported. Cathera Prime is non-viable for life. Moving to the next target. It took 3 weeks for the human fleet to sterilize all 14 Cathera hive worlds. Each one followed the same pattern. Desperate defense. Orbital bombardment. Extinction. By the end, over 1 trillion Cathera organisms had died. The human fleet lost 800 ships and 200,000 more lives. But the Cathera swarm, the terror that had consumed 17 species, no longer existed. 3 months later, High Scholar Vexthor addressed the Galactic Council. He looked older now. Tired, but alive, thanks to human intervention. The Thraxi Empire wishes to formally declare our debt to humanity repaid in full, he said slowly. They came when called. They fought when asked. They sacrificed more than we had any right to expect. He paused, gathering strength. But we also wish to make something clear to this council. We did not ask humanity to exterminate the Cathera. We asked them to defend our territory. What they chose to do beyond that was their decision. The chamber remained silent. Everyone knew what Vexthor was doing. He was separating the Thraxi from the human campaign, protecting his people from association with genocide. Ambassador Chen Wei stood. The Thraxi owe humanity nothing. The debt is repaid. We are satisfied. She looked around the chamber. But while I have the council's attention, I wish to make a statement on behalf of humanity. The Cathera swarm was eliminated not because we are bloodthirsty, not because we enjoy killing, but because we calculated the future. She pulled up projections. If we had stopped at the Thraxi border, the swarm would have regrouped within 10 years. 20 years later, they would have been as strong as before. 50 years later, they would have been unstoppable, and eventually they would have consumed the Thraxi, then other species, then eventually humanity. We chose to pay the cost now in our generation so that future generations would not have to, Chen Wei continued. That is what humans do. We make hard choices so our children do not have to. The Valorian Prime stood. He moved carefully as if afraid. Ambassador Chen Wei, the galaxy has watched humanity wage total war. We have seen your capacity for destruction. Many species now fear you. What do you say to that? Chen Wei smiled. It was not a warm smile. I say we are honored by your fear. Fear means respect. Respect means you will think carefully before threatening our friends. She looked at Vex Thor. The Thraxi saved humanity 50 years ago. We will remember that for 1,000 years. Any species that threatens the Thraxi will learn what the Cathera learned. Quickly and painfully. Then she looked at the rest of the council. But we have no desire for conquest. No interest in domination. Humans want the same thing we have always wanted. To live peacefully, to protect our friends, and to be left alone. Give us that and you have nothing to fear from humanity. And if we do not, someone asked. Then you become a threat, Chen Wei said simply. And humans eliminate threats. We have proven that. The session ended shortly after. As delegates filed out, Krelthus approached Ambassador Chen Wei. May I walk with you? Of course, Observer. They walked in silence for a while. Finally, Krelthus spoke. Ambassador, I have been with the human fleet for 9 months. I have watched you fight. I have seen your victories and your losses. I have one question. Ask, do you regret it? The Cathera extinction? Chen Wei stopped walking. She looked out a viewport at the stars. Every single day, Observer. Every human involved in that campaign carries the weight of what we did. We killed a species. Trillions of living beings. That is not something to celebrate. Then why did you do it? Because regret is a price we can afford to pay, Chen Wei said quietly. Dead Thraxi? Dead humans? Dead victims of future Cathera attacks? Those prices we could not afford. She turned to face him. Observer, the Thraxi saved humanity because you are a kind species. You believed in helping others. We learned that from you. But we also learned something from our own history. Kindness must be protected. Good people must be defended. And sometimes defending good people requires doing terrible things. Is that the lesson humanity takes from all this? Krelthus asked. No, Chen Wei replied. The lesson is simpler. We remember our friends, and we remember our enemies. The galaxy should be very clear about which category they want to be in. Months later, Krelthus returned to the Thraxi homeworld. He found High Scholar Vex Thor in a garden, watching Thraxi children play. Human ships still patrolled nearby space, though they had begun withdrawing. Observer, Vex Thor greeted him. You have been gone many months. What have you learned about humans? Krelthus sat beside his mentor. They are dangerous, High Scholar. More dangerous than any species in the galaxy. Should we fear them? That depends, Krelthus replied. The humans have 2 faces. One is kind, generous, and loyal. That is the face we saw when they saved us. The other is ruthless, brutal, and unstoppable. That is the face the Cathera saw. He watched the children play, alive because humans had died to protect them. The question each species must answer is simple. Which face do you want to see? Vex Thor nodded slowly. The Thraxi will always see the kind face, I think. We saved them once. They saved us. That bond will not break. No, Krelthus agreed. But High Scholar, the rest of the galaxy now knows what humans will do for their friends. They destroyed the Cathera completely. No mercy, no hesitation. They did it for us. Does that frighten you? Krelthus thought about it. Yes, but it also comforts me. Because I know that humanity will never forget what the Thraxi did for them. And any species that threatens us will face the same fate as the Cathera. Vex Thor looked at the human ships in orbit. We invited a sleeping predator to save us. Now the galaxy knows that Predator is awake. And grateful, Krelthus added. Never forget that. Humanity is grateful that gratitude saved us, but their capacity for gratitude is matched only by their capacity for vengeance. The 2 Thraxi sat in silence, watching the children play under the protection of human warships. The debt had been repaid. The galaxy stood frozen in a new understanding. Humanity was no longer the primitive newcomer. They were the species you wanted as a friend and feared as an enemy. And in the quiet garden, watching innocent children play, both scholars understood the truth. The galaxy had changed forever. Not because humanity had proven they could wage war, but because they had proven they would.